Kemi Amalulu Olunlaya, Lagos, Nigeria, August 15th, 2019, and this is IJ Koza. My investigative journalism series about the Commonwealth of Zion Assembly's pastor, Biodun Fatoyinbo, and Busola Dakolo, a photographer who alleges that he raped her 20 years ago. I've done a lot on this story. Most of you can follow it on the hashtag IJ Koza on all social media. Busola was never raped by Fatoyinbo. Busola is in an extortion scheme that's orchestrated by her husband, and her husband had to add other people to the whole scheme, and those people know themselves. Chude Jidenwo, Yemi Adamaleku, Buki Shonibare, activists, and all kinds of people in these movements, Church 2 movements, Me Too movements, different movements out there. They plan this thing carefully together. And what the scheme is, to make sure the pastor steps down. They started their first scheme by doing a protest, which they carefully planned with placards and banners ready for the protest when he was going to have his crusade. They went to his churches and mounted the process. The process worked so well with their protests. They harassed church members leaving the services, and they managed to have the pastor step down. After Fatoyinbo stepped down for 30 days, he came back to the pulpit with a very, very passionate and strong service. It just so happens that the way I investigate people, Nigerians are not ready for me. As an investigative journalist, I've done this for 25 years in the United States, where I was trained, and of course Canada. I work with Toronto police on murders in the community, in the Toronto community. The murders I worked on were very easy to solve with my help. Okay, I was even named snitch lady by a former gang member who's now in prison for murder. Okay, with the snitch lady phenomenon and the Toronto police working together, clearly we solved some very difficult murders. Information, digging. There has to be a journalist working alongside police in many cases. And I know for one that there are journalists in Nigeria, especially with the Nation newspaper, that actually work side by side with the IGP monitoring unit. Look at Professor Lebari's case, the Port Harcourt, university professor whose phone was stolen, who was killed and buried underneath the ground in his own compound. The Nation reporter gave updates on what he was going through with the police in the investigation. The Koza investigation has nobody working alongside police. No media outlet has even done this investigation independently but me. Because I see loopholes, I see lies, and I see ways where someone can actually destroy another person because they're a woman, because they're saying I was raped. And that other person is a powerful figure, a pastor. This is what this case is about. There's a cabal of pastors in the Pentecostal church. We know that. Many of them are afraid of me. They know there's no need to be afraid of Kemi Olunlaya. One of them even called my father. Pastor Adefarasin's pastors, or maybe Adefarasin himself. One of them called my father. I know who called. I recorded my father, and if I have to play that recording, the case is over. Unfortunately, this case was played out in a very, very, very high fashion, and it fell down on top of them. Maybe they don't know it's fallen down on top of them. When the House on the Rock pastor called my dad and said someone was threatening me, an Igbo journalist was threatening me, that person told me right there and then, I'm digging even more. When you start calling my father and telling him that a journalist is threatening me over the Fatoyinbo case, I don't know any Igbo journalists except two of them. Paul Egwe at the Nation and Chude Chidenwo. Chude, are you involved in this scheme? Did you know what happened? Debola Williams, Why Niger, Red Media, and Chude are partners. How come the Guardian reporter that did the interview with Busola wrote a headline that said, the Me Too movement has turned against Busola? Why are you so obsessed about the Me Too movement? There is no Me Too movement in Nigeria. And if we had one, we had a group of female celebrities who went to Busola's page to commiserate with her. I had a fierce argument with Shade Ladipo on Azuka Okuchui by Media Room Hub's show, Crosstalk Uncut. You'll see it. It was fierce. Mariah Falabi Brown said, But you have PTSD. Wouldn't that affect your investigation? She apologized later. My mental state has nothing to do with my mental state when I'm investigating somebody. I'm doing my work. I've never pulled you down or dragged you down. Don't drag my work down. Even PC Hugo called me a liar, comparing my investigation to the Linda Ikeji investigation. And I said Linda was never pregnant. And I told her right on live TV, Linda was never pregnant. She carried a surrogate baby. There's a lot of things Nigerians can't accept in investigations. What happened here was a situation in which, if you think I'm investigating this alone, I'm not the only one, but nobody else is in Nigeria. I have investigative journalists on the other side of the Atlantic working for me, helping me with this investigation because it's deep. Let me tell you something. Chris Atto's wife died in Maryland, USA. Nobody knew he was married, to her here, and then to another person over there, a former drug dealer in prison. This woman was married to 2 husbands. No one knew over there. It was me that I did the investigation. Most of you know that brought Atto's case out. All the U.S. media were calling me. I appeared on several television stations over there. The woman's married to 2 people on 2 sides of the Atlantic. It takes good investigative journalism to know that. And finally, if you go to the Me Too Movement's page on Wikipedia, the Me Too Movement's page on Wikipedia has an area that says churches. The 2019 release of Toy Story 2 had a blooper scene during the credits removed because of a sexual misconduct scene in there. Under churches on Me Too Movement, you will see that the script of Andy Savage is what Busola Dakolo played here with her husband, the manipulative Timmy Dakolo, who have investigated all the way to his state, his street. People who work for him have spoken to me. Busola's sisters never talked about their sister's rape, never posted one thing about rape because they said they could not prove it was true. One sister even said she lied in today's interview about slapping a driver. When you're a liar, you're always a liar. You had a whole press conference, you didn't say a word. Why wasn't I invited to the press conference? All the media that was invited to the press conference, did they investigate your case? They just reported that you said police harassed you. Busola changed her story and said police did not harass her at gunpoint. The Guardian interview was an old interview. It's not. The reporter in The Guardian has gotten an award from Chude before, Future Awards. Segalin got into it. I tore him apart. The NSARS guy. He's also Why Niger Person of the Year. They were all in a scheme. Everybody fired from Punch were in it to do the cartoon of Fatoyinbo peeing on the Bible. And go to the Wikipedia under churches. In November 2017, the hashtag Church2 started, and that's what Yemi Adamaleko and Buki Shonibare used to force Fatoyinbo off the pulpit. Passed a step down, Church2 movement. So you have a Church2 movement in Nigeria? Why did you use Andy Savage script? You guys need to go read it because Andy Savage sexually assaulted a 17-year-old girl 20 years ago when he was a youth pastor while driving her home. This is the script Busola played. But Savage went on live streaming video on social media to confess and apologize. He received a huge applause from his church, admitting the incident and asking for forgiveness. Andy Savage resigned from the church. And that's what they wanted Fatoyinbo to do, to resign from the church. And that's what the cabal wanted him to do, so that they can now take over Abuja and build their own churches, so that Koza can go down and everybody can jump ship, like what happened at Eddie Long's church in Atlanta. So everybody will now move to other churches. Who are these pastors who organize this cabal? Unfortunately, I am urging President Buhari, Mrs. Buhari, and Pastor Osinbajo, our vice president, to get this investigation deep, okay, and arrest every party that was in conjunction with this scheme. Investigative journalism is not about fear. It's about money. It cost me a lot of time and money, a lot of it my money. And the money I made from this investigation, most of it came from my social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook creator, verified, Instagram creator. I'm going to wrap up this investigation, but for now, they played a script. I said it from the word go, and you can see it yourself. Andy Savage script. Unfortunately, Fatoyinbo did not resign. He fought back and asked them for an invitation. More to come on IJ Koza. I'm Kemi Olunloyo, the great journalist of Nigeria.